Welcome to Drugstore News. Today we're talking with Mimi Banks, founder of MB Social, and Dr. Dustin Portela, a board-certified dermatologist and healthcare content creator with over 4 million followers. Together we're going to talk about their social media resource for healthcare professionals, Med Creator 101, and also now building off our previous conversation, how it can fit into the retail space. So let's get started. Dr. Portela, Mimi, where do you see the biggest opportunity for healthcare creators within retail today?
The market for wellness has grown by leaps and bounds, and I think people are increasingly turning to the wellness industry because of the costs of traditional healthcare, and they're seeking to solve problems without having to go to a physician. And there's upsides and potential downsides to that, but we know that more people are turning to AI to answer their questions. For many years, they've been using Google and WebMD, but now AI is taking a front and center space in helping people to understand health conditions and the kinds of supplements or devices that they might implement into their routine. And for decades, companies have been turning to healthcare professionals to help to endorse these products and market them. And I think that role is increasing because companies, develop these things with science, but it still is often that physician or the pharmacist where their endorsement matters. And I think that as physicians and pharmacists and other healthcare professionals start to look at that, it's important that we do the research on what these products are, that we don't simply rely on the marketing claims from the company themselves, and that we can be a part of that conversation, both in the retail space and on social media, and help consumers to get accurate information. And so the opportunities are endless, I believe, but it will take work on the part of the healthcare professional to be a part of that conversation. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of OTC brands, and I always, you can tell when you're looking at a commercial or an ad in a store, if it's an actor in a white coat versus a physician that people might recognize because of their social media presence. And I think that when healthcare professionals and industry can team up to share accurate information, consumers will benefit to a greater degree.
I mean, I think it's like also the age-old saying is that somebody else talking about your product is better than you talking about your product, which is where user-generated content actually started because people were taking pictures and sharing their content, and it was more believable than a manufactured ad. And I think with a lot of brands who have been at the forefront of this, community is at the heart of where marketing is right now. And the brands that are on top of that or that are quickest will be able to evolve. And this impacts how we look at retail too, whether it's the brands at retail, whether it's at the retailers themselves, is how community-centric you are and who is part of that community. And so to use dermatologists, to use the healthcare professionals and the key members of your community so that they can join and be active voices can only help spread the message in a stronger way and have more credibility, to Dustin's point of if you have an actor in a white coat or a recognizable face. More and more brands that we work with at MB Social are looking to have doctors, have medical professionals as part of their campaigns on their signage in retail. And you can see even people using influencers. So this is really the expectation. But also, there has to be meaning and strategy behind it. So it's not just a copy paste, doing it for the sake of doing it. There has to be the long-term part of the business to be able to integrate them as key players. It's because the marketing and retail has shifted, the expectations have shifted, how people access information has shifted, and we just need to catch up.
It's a really great point. I mean, word of mouth is so valuable, but now you have the credibility backed up. But like you said, how do you build that into the retail strategy, which is such a great point that you brought up. And also too, so, where's the most confusion or misinformation? So we have skincare, OTC, women's health, nutrition, hair loss, like, GLP-1 support. What kind of stuff are you guys seeing on that front? And how can, HCP, how can they help with that?
I would say first is TikTok University. My short answer, then I'm going to have the professional. The first is TikTok University, is that anyone who's found any kind of DIY solution from their kitchen, from experimenting, from something they saw somewhere that people want to share, that they take that as the truth. And therefore, because it's snackable, entertaining, seems accessible, oh, I can do that for any of the list of the things that you mentioned. Even parenting, my husband sends me parenting advice all of the time, and I actually sent it to Dustin to be like, can you please tell him that this is not real? Because you see a hack and you're looking for that solution. It's very interesting. You're looking for that solution, whatever that may be, whatever the challenge may be. And it's because it's so accessible. That's from my social media lens perspective, and having lived it with my husband and sending it to Dustin to say, please debunk this. You don't trust me, you'll trust him.
I think to answer your question, it's really going to depend on who you're talking to. Where I largely live in the skincare world, I see a ton of misinformation on skincare. But I suspect if you asked a dietitian what category was going to have the most misinformation, they would tell you that it's going to be nutrition. And a scientist might say it's in the supplement space, and a pharmacist might say it's in the GLP-1s. And I think that really just speaks to the need that we have for as many healthcare professionals in a multitude of disciplines to be active on social media and to collaborate with fellow healthcare professionals. And I think that is an underutilized tool, is having collaborations, and the platforms make this quite easy, but we need to collaborate with each other and cross those audiences over and introduce our audience to somebody else who shares credible information. And we just need to understand from a consumer point that there is a large amount of money. And I believe the information that I've heard is that the supplement industry is larger than the pharmaceutical industry in terms of overall dollars. And so when there is so much money to be made, there are unfortunately bad actors that seek to share information to scare people into making a decision about their health. And so we need more people giving accurate information that empowers the consumer to make correct choices, to make the choices that are the most well-informed. And there's misinformation in all of these categories, and we need to work together as a healthcare community to address each of these.
I love that because it's so true. I swear if I open TikTok, I see something for a new supplement and it's like, it'll do XYZ, and you look it up and it's like I've never heard of this ingredient. I don't think this is real. Like
Yeah.
I love that answer because you said got to band together. Let's beat this information. Let's give all these folks good stuff that they can listen to and rely on. Because like you said, there's a lot of bad actors out there. So I love that. I think that's such a great idea. So also now that we have the social media component, people are looking on Reddit, they're looking on TikTok. They are increasingly searching for products on social media before they ever walk into a store. How can, healthcare creators help influence their decision making to make the right decision, the most informed decision?
Well, it's being consistent on social media and having an approach that communicates authenticity and trust. So I think it's good for medical creators to have kind of a format that they like to follow to share accurate information. And on some of the platforms, particularly YouTube, but you may be able to access these kinds of features on other platforms, is you can get an extra badge on your page that says from a licensed healthcare professional in the US. And if you are active on YouTube, I highly encourage you to submit the application for that. Generally, you're going to have to just send in a copy of your license and they will add that. And so that you will get some priority in people's searches. And when your video pops up, they'll be able to see that you are actually a board certified healthcare professional in whatever the discipline is that you're speaking about. And I think that helps to give some extra trust for the viewer. And I would encourage people to take that step and just be active in the conversation, put out, a lot of information that is accurate, and don't be afraid to revisit topics. If you've talked about, vitamin D supplementation before, the conversation's not over and the whole world didn't see that video. So go ahead and talk about it again. Put a new angle on it, put a twist on it, use a different hook to start your video, because there's new people that are going to find that information. And when we have more healthcare professionals building up the corpus of information on these healthcare topics, we can drown out the bad actors, the people that are spreading misinformation.
And I also think that they can also help people develop healthy skepticism and critical thinking skills. When someone sees a supplement claiming it can do 10 different things, should encourage people to ask questions. What is the evidence behind it? Are the ingredients supported by research? Is the claim realistic? Who's making the recommendations? And do they have relevant expertise? And their creators are most effective, I think, when they don't just tell people what to buy, but explain why they're making the recommendation. Breaking down the science in a way that's completely understandable and digestible makes them even more informed consumers long after they've watched the video. So this
love
all
that.
helps them build that trust that Dustin was talking about of healthcare professional scientists, creators can work together to provide this accurate evidence-based information that will help cut through that noise.
I think that's a good point. We're not just there to teach people what to think, but how to think, how to ask those questions from a critical standpoint so that they can advocate for themselves.
I love that. I mean, I feel like too, especially with AI generated marketing, I think people just, they say, hey, this looks like it'll work fast for whatever issue I'm having, and they're more likely to buy it. It's like, no, think a little bit. So I really love that aspect of it too, where it's like you're empowering the consumer and, people who are looking for answers, because there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
And I guess my final question. So for retailers looking to incorporate more healthcare creators into their marketing strategy, what first steps should they take?
From a retail perspective, or a company that manufactures a product, you need to do some social listening and understand what is the ethos of your brand, your company, the way that you like to do things, and go find the people that are organically talking about your product, your service, your information, that are already passionate about it, that have built an audience that already loves that thing. And this is something I've been recommending a particular skincare brand from my early days in residency. And I've now had the opportunity to work with that brand in an official capacity a number of times, but it was because my audience already knew that I loved that brand and that I often recommended it and that I used it personally. And so retailers will have more success when they go and they find those creators, even if it's a small creator that is already a passionate fan of their brand or their product. And that doesn't mean that it's always going to be the biggest creator with the most followers. It's really finding that passionate fan that can speak authentically about your product because they've loved it for years.
And the people, they don't necessarily have the biggest followers, but they should have alignment, which is even more effective. They've built trust in their communities and consistently provide accurate evidence-based information. So thinking also about the values that align with their brand and who genuinely understands the product. I think that's extremely important. And thinking beyond that, I would also encourage retailers to think beyond one-off sponsored posts. The strongest partnerships, and Dustin can agree with this, are the ones that are long-term relationships where creators can educate their audience over time. So it's product information, myth busting, answering questions, or helping people understand how to evaluate the products for themselves. And finally, thinking about creators early on in the process, because they're on the front lines of the consumer conversations every single day. They know what questions people are asking, what misconceptions are circulating, and what information consumers are struggling to find.
So that was a really great conversation. So as we wrap up, where can we find you?
So you can find the Med Creator 101 podcast wherever you get your podcasts. There's over 60 episodes jam-packed with information from your top creators, brands, tips and tools, how you can use social media as a medical professional. You can find us on Substack, Med Creator 101, the social playbook, and also on social on Instagram, Med Creator 101, and also on Facebook. We monitor the DMs. We're here to help. And also, we hope that you will also take the course. It has 8 lessons. Each one has really thoughtful information that is meant to be able to help you, worksheets to support everything that you learn and to practice.
Thank you both so much. Mimi and Dr. Portela, thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.